Hey guys, I am Stuart Breeding and welcome back to Studio 2, and I hope you have been enjoying our ongoing blog series on hacking strength. It's been a lot of fun for me to write it and articulate some ideas about strength training and the process from beginner to advanced, and I thought since this week we're talking about the advanced strength athlete, I would take a minute and I would do a little video and catch you guys up on what I've been doing in my training since last year at Nationals. So long story short, it's been a really good year post Nationals. I was going to do a meet last April, and in training for that I really just hit a wall. I have been either ISO or hypocaloric for about 2 years, which means ISO is maintaining the amount of calories that one would need to sustain a certain body weight. And then hypo is, of course, a caloric deficit. And then hyper would be increasing calories to gain weight, such as hypertrophy. So I have either been holding my body weight or cutting body weight for 2 years in powerlifting. And last year at Nationals, I weighed 159 the day of weigh-in. I was probably at less than 5% body fat that day. I was ripped to shreds, really strong. Everything went great, but I felt like shit. And I felt like shit for a long time leading up to Nationals. And I tried to sustain my body weight at around 165 to 168. And when I was training for this past meet in April, I was coming in at about 166 or 7. And the in-body was showing I had a little less than 8 total pounds of body fat on my body left. And long story short, you know, hell, your brain weighs 4 pounds. So I'm running around with 4 or 5 pounds of body fat and just felt like crap. And I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm going to gain weight. There was a lot of things that I could not do in training. I couldn't do a lot of hypertrophy exercises. I was basically doing the main lifts, recovering, and getting, you know, very little done as far as a recuperative strategy for my joints, and it just got really, really tough to sustain, long story short. So I've been doing a hypertrophy cycle. I did about a 6-week cycle that was probably, I would say, 70% hypertrophy, 30% strength. And then I did another 6-week cycle that was probably 50-50, 50% hypertrophy, 50% strength, because I don't want to lose my strength, because powerlifting at the end of the day is my goal. And then now I'm getting ready to start another 7-week cycle with a 1-week taper going into Raw Nationals in October, of which I'll be doing a lot of hypertrophy training, sustaining the size of the muscle, but obviously strength training will be 75%, the orientation around the programming coming up. So it's been really fun to eat a lot of food. Strangely, energy levels haven't gotten that much better. The amount of volume has increased so much that I'm tired a lot. My body is beat up. I don't have a joint in my body that it doesn't have some amount of injury going on, all the way from my finger to my shoulders, my elbows, hips and knees. Part of that is just being almost 50 years old and pushing a shit ton of volume. But recovery has been hard, and I really thought that eating more would make me feel better, and it really hadn't. But anyway, getting ready to start a cycle, and I made a couple of notes just so I don't forget. I wanted to talk about several things, and once again, this week's topic is on the advanced strength athlete, and we'll get into actually what I'm doing in the gym and the whats and the whys I'm doing it, and talk a little bit about programming specific to strength. So we talked a lot about my weight and how hard it is to sustain a low body weight, low body fat, especially when you're doing extremely high levels of volume and intensity via the amount of weight that you're pushing. It's really hard to recover. Injuries have been creeping up, and I hope that I'm tapering right now, but I hope that going into next week when I start, that I can spend a little bit more time in recovery. The programming I've done has been really effective, and when this cycle is done, I'm probably going to post it and you'll be able to download it. I'm calling it the Trifecta program: big, strong, and ripped. Like I say, it starts with a lot of hypertrophy, a little bit of strength, about 50-50, and then it shifts to a complete strength training program. So it's about an 18 to 20 week program that is just kick-ass. It's really been cool. Strength levels through the roof. I really feel good and strong when I'm actually in the gym and moving weights. The programming, I think, is largely got a lot to do with that. I've played a lot with different types of accommodating resistance that we'll talk about here in a little bit. And once again, I'm able to fuel my workouts now, whereas before, I was basically doing these gauntlet workouts with no calories in my body, and it sucked. So probably the best thing we could do is just talk a little bit about what I'm doing in the gym these days. All right, guys, so I'm going to attempt to do a play-by-play watching last week's max effort squat and deadlift day on the video screen while I'm talking to you about what it is that I'm doing, why I'm doing it. I've been following the conjugate system. I've written prior blogs about it. I really truly believe it's probably the best comprehensive strength program that anyone could do, a power lifter, a wannabe bodybuilder, or any kind of strength athlete, football, any kind of athlete who wants to get stronger and also gain size. So if you haven't read what the blog I did on the conjugate system, why West Side is superior, you really should go back and read that blog, and it'll help you understand a little bit more about what I'm doing. I have put in this blog a brief outline about what I believe the advanced strength athlete is, and also a brief outline on topics that I'll be covering over the next several weeks. And my hope is to record a lot of the training that I'm doing leading up to nationals over the next 8 weeks and talk to you guys about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and hopefully you'll be fairly interested in it. But without further ado, we're going to get a little bit into the last max effort squat and deadlift day that I did, and I'm going to walk you a little bit through some of the things that I'm doing, and again, why in the hell am I doing it. So every time I walk into that gym, no matter what it is that I'm doing, I'm trying to get my nervous system prepped and ready for what's getting ready to happen. So I never just walk in, grab the bar, and start moving some weights around. I'm doing a little Aerodyne here. It's one of my favorite cardio machines. It's multi-dimensional push-pull bike. And I'm not a cardio fan, but it is really good just to get the blood pumping, get going. This is about 4:30 in the morning also, so it takes a while to get set up. Now this is a core activator, and I need to do a whole video. It's a 4-part core activator. There's 4 exercises intended to activate diaphragm, multifidus, internal obliques, local stabilizer muscles that oftentimes tend to fall asleep at the wheel. And I've had some core activation issues, so I start every single session going through these, and they are really super effective. And like I say, I'm going to do a little video on those, just on those. Clams, do them every single time you're squatting or deadlifting. I mean, you have to do them. I've had ongoing piriformis issues, glute issues on the left side that have turned into a low back issue that we'll talk about here in a second as I get into deadlifts. But clams are the easiest, most effective way to get the piriformis and glutes activated. You can do abduction walks, abduction squats. There's a lot of different ways, but the clam's the easiest. Here's some Bulgarian split squats for a warm-up, and you just see me kind of really stretching my upper body out also. The shoulders get banged up from the low bar position in the squat. And the Bulgarian is, I think, the most corrective exercise you can do. And a lot of times I'll do these with a cambered squat bar. This is just a warm-up. You see me stretching off to the side. So to stretch the psoas, you have to twist against that joint. It's a big old beefy muscle that crosses the joint, and it's tenacious and hard to get into. So the Bulgarian split is one of the best ways to affect the hip flexors and warm them up. This is me moving around with my trusty little stick. I do a lot of different stretches with the stick. Picked this up from martial arts training, Aikido. I could do an hour-long video, I swear to God, just on things that you can do with the stick. Not just stretching, but a lot of SMR, self-myofascial release, is better and easier to use with a stick than a foam roller, because one, it is more dense. You'll get to a point where when you accrue enough muscle tissue that it's hard to affect the muscle, to get something deep enough in the muscle that you're affecting the little fascicles that are at the root of the problem. So a stick is a really easy, great way of doing it. And once again, I'm going to do probably 2 or 3 videos on what to do with a stick other than hit people with it. But I'll do a lot of different stretches with that. And these are just several activators and stretches that I will do prior to squatting. I'm not showing all of them. I don't want to bore you to tears. And you need to pick and choose the ones that work for you. And I don't ever do them all in the same sequence, and I don't ever do the same exercises or stretches on a weekly basis. I switch them up as I need them. But we'll get into some squatting here. So this is something that I've been working on for about 12 weeks to 16 weeks. I've not done a full squat with a stretch reflex, meaning bouncing out of the hole, in about 12 to 16 weeks. Louis Simmons talks a lot about making your training exercise choices suck. So specialty exercises like this one, and this I would just call a pin squat. So I've got the pins in the rack set where I am at the bottom of the squat position. I'm below parallel, and instead of bouncing out of there, like I said, I'm pausing it. So it is a static or a relaxed position overcome by a dynamic force. Now it's hard to see also, but I've got 2 green bands on there. And there is about, I believe, about 100 pounds of tension on those bands. And I've written about accommodating resistance before. There's a lot of raw powerlifters that shit all over accommodating strength and the West Side system, the conjugate system in general. Last year for nationals, I did a pure raw program where I was just lifting straight weight, wasn't doing hardly any accessory exercises because I didn't want to gain too much size. And I personally love accommodating strength. There is just something that's happening there. It's just different. And I've got about 480 pounds on the bar total. It's probably about 420 at the bottom and 485-ish, somewhere in there when I stand up with the weight. But there is just a different approach. When you have that band on, your body is wanting to race to stand up. You are very dynamic. It's a kinetic stored energy that is just different than training with straight weight. And I really like it. I'll use bands for every single exercise, the bench press, the squats, deadlifts. I'll use them for accessory movements a lot of times. I just feel like a coiled rubber band when I'm doing training with the bands. I feel totally different when I'm running with straight weight. Now this is a walkout set. I've got about, if I remember correctly, about 450 pounds on the bar and the band. So we're pushing somewhere around 520, 530 at the top. And you see it's only for a partial movement. I'm only stepping out, feeling the weight, letting my nervous system adjust to the heavy weight, and racking it. So it's not a big
movement. It's just about getting the nervous system used to some heavy weights. So as we get into deadlifts, once again, I'm running with accommodating resistance. Again, I'm using chain. This is 80 pounds of chain, and you can barely see it, but I've got a 2-inch platform that I'm standing on. And again, I haven't done a regular deadlift, oh my goodness, in at least 16 weeks. And going into the end of nationals at the end of the year, I did RDLs for 6 months straight. That's all I did was RDLs. And I still include RDLs. I'll put bands on. Again, I'll show you some RDLs here in a second. But accommodating resistance, again, with chain. And I like the chain on the deadlift a lot. I like bands also, but there's something about the chain in the deadlift. It just feels a bit different. I like how it slowly accumulates. The bands in the deadlift tend to rip the bar out of your hands. There's a point in which the bands are just literally so violently pulling that it's hard to do with the same amount of weight. So as I get into this last set of deadlifts, as I'm pulling it, you'll see there's a point at the top where I felt a pop in my hip, in my butt. And I went ahead and I locked it out. This is about 555 at the top with a 2-inch deficit. So it's a good deadlift, and there's a little pop. I lock it out and I let it go. And I've been a bit injured from that and recovering from that ever since. Once I got done with that, I wanted to make sure that that there wasn't really anything bad. So I walked over and put some weight on the bar and did some really light Romanian deadlifts, sets of 8. And, you know, like I said, I've been recovering from that ever since. Something in my left glute, like I said earlier, it has not been cooperating with me, and I've been working on that. And, you know, I think it'll get better as weeks go by. This is just a couple of accessory exercises that I'm doing following that up. Again, the conjugate system is dealing with weaknesses. And I'll talk a lot about how the bodybuilder uses exercises to work on weaknesses. So the bodybuilder is looking in the mirror and saying, my biceps are not as big as my triceps. I need to work on my biceps. My shoulders are not in line with the calves. My symmetry is off, so I need to add these exercises into my program. So the bodybuilder is looking at weaknesses from a cosmetic standpoint. The powerlifter is looking at weaknesses from what's going on in the lifts and where there's breakdown, where the form is starting to break down in the lift, and then uses accessory exercises to strengthen those weak areas. It's really the same mindset. A powerlifter is a good bodybuilder, and a bodybuilder is a good powerlifter. They all go together, and I think this is at the heart of why a lot of Louis Simmons especially has been very vocal about Olympic weightlifting not approaching their program through this mindset. They're just doing snatches and pulls and you know, slight variations of the two major lifts, the clean and jerk and snatch, but they're not looking at smaller, intricate exercises that could really make the lift better. So I can tell you straight up, at the heart of the argument is you got this camp over here that basically says if you want to get stronger at the bench press, the squat, the deadlift, you need a bench press, squat, and deadlift. Well, I can tell you straight up, that works to a certain point, and then what? And anybody who has ever just done the bench press and then added something like a tricep extension to their workout, they would notice their bench press went up. If I've been working on the overhead press because my shoulders are horrible, and I've been working on it for 8 weeks, and guess what happened to my bench press? It went up. So specialty exercises and accessory exercises such as the overhead press, tricep extensions, will make the lift go up. Romanian deadlifts, good mornings will make your deadlift go up. So if your deadlift is suffering, more deadlifting is probably not going to be the answer. It's probably going to be looking at some core work and other accessory exercises that work on the weak area of the lift. It's just kind of a no-brainer thing for me, hopefully for you too. And then so I just finish up, with some accessory exercises, and I always finish up with some core work at the end. It doesn't matter what lift we're talking about. Doesn't matter if you're a bodybuilder, you're a power lifter. If your core is not activated, if you're having issues with stability, especially in the lumbopelvic hip region, you're going to get injured. And it's not going to be very long before you have to cease your program. So I always finish with a lot of core work. I'll do core work every single day. And again, Louis Simmons talks a lot about these little specialty workouts, 20, 30-minute workouts that are outside the main lift days. And core work is definitely one of those that you can just pop in every single day. You're looking at type 2 muscle fiber, muscles that are really hard to break down, and they can handle a lot of pounding. So you can work your core every single day, and probably should. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this long, lengthy video, and every week we're going to be doing a little something for the strength athlete. I'm going to record a lot of my training over the next 8 weeks, good or bad. Keep your fingers crossed for me, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and also if you're watching this video, get your butt on our YouTube channel so you'll know when these videos are coming out. But thanks for watching.